Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast with myself, Sam Hill, and as always, I'm joined by
Harry Tovey
and
Ben Thomas.
And in today's episode, we are joined by a very special guest. We're joined by an MC, a ring announcer, Jonathan Millard, voice of the Vale. Thank you so much for joining us. How you doing?
Doing good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me along on Puncher's Chance. Thank you.
No worries at all. First of all, obvious start for the thing. What is your job? What do you do? You know, what does a day as an MC at an event look like?
At an event as an MC, it's kind of a busy day. I like to be there early. I like to be there before boxers and other people start turning up, to have a good feel of the room and a good look at the venue. And then as the show gets closer and closer, the doors open, the punters come in, the room fills up, lots of noise. Done everything I need to do. Suit and boot, get in the ring, get in the cage, and deliver the best possible show that I can.
So how much planning then goes into it? Does it happen on the Friday, or is there something you just go to the venue, you get the list of fighters, and you're like, okay, go and do my research and then come back?
At a pro show, it's a little bit more different to some of the amateur shows or the semi sort of professional shows, or even MMA shows as well. Every show, I take my hat off to any promoter who wants to be a promoter, because pullouts is the biggest nightmare for a promoter, particularly when you get, as we all know, we all watch boxing, and you see something happens in camp, an accident, and then you have to sort of switch around. But yeah, for the preparation side of it, I'm very lucky. I've got a great partner who helps me, normally because her handwriting is far neater than mine, and will help me get the cards. So we'll try and get as much information as possible, nicknames, and if it's the debut or if it's whatever their records are. The only thing you can't get unless it's a day before weigh-in, which is your weights and your short colours. So you try and be as organised as possible, but sometimes you turn up on the night and what we thought was going to be a 16 card fight show is now dropped down to 10, and they've got extra people from X, Y, and Z jumping in, and a Nicaraguan for good luck.
They that out of all the names then that you announce, are they the sort of ones where you look at it and you're like, oh, hang on a minute, I need to maybe go over to him and ask him, how do you actually pronounce it?
Sometimes, yeah. What I try to do is when I'm at a show is try and get backstage if I can.
Yeah.
Particularly in amongst the fighters, but that's difficult sometimes when if they turned up and they've had an early weigh-in, they've gone off for their Nando's, and then they're not around in the building. The show starts, they finally come back. On which point, so I'm frantic trying to get something, or the promoter if the promoters, or cornermen if the referees sometimes, and the officials as well, because they've done enough shows to know some of these names, and see if they can help me. Otherwise, I'm trying to Google it and trying to get some sort of pronunciation under my belt, so I've got something to go at. But you're kind of lucky when you're a ring announcer, because you can say things and elongate words and sections and syllables, and it doesn't necessarily fit, but it sounds great. so
yeah, smart. And you're a BBUFC licensed MC. So what does that mean in terms of what does that mean you can do, and how do you go about one getting their license? Is it a matter of you just apply and you get, or is there sort of a vetting process?
You get your license from the board is, well, it was a thing that I didn't think I was ever going to do, but I was fortunate enough to enter a competition for Matchroom Boxing and Sky Sports, which was a search for MCs, and they called it MC Academy, and it featured Eddie Hearn, Adam Smith from Sky Boxing as he was then, the legend Michael Buffer, and a rapper, and the name escapes me of the rapper, but he was there to represent JD Sports. And it'll come back to me as we go along. So I got through that. I was a finalist, and I got to sit with Michael Buffer for a masterclass, is what they called it. It was just half an hour just chatting about being an MC, showing up, then doing the workouts at thing. And I will get to the point in a second, but Didn't win the competition. That's okay. That's not the end of the world. And I thought, well, someone believes in me that much to put me in the final, then the next step is obviously to get the license. So I applied to the board, and they said, "Oh, okay, you need to come for an interview." And so I roll up down here in Cardiff at the Holiday Inn for the local council meeting, and so I was sitting there, see all these famous boxers, Lee Selby and Andrew Selby coming in. I think it was a young Gavin Gwynwick was on there as well, came through. A couple of others, sort of known faces to me. Tony Borg was there, a couple of others, for whatever reasons. And then they invited me in, and they were sat in a sort of horseshoe around the table, and they said, "Okay, we want you to announce someone as we would want it done on the board." So it's the whole thing. So did that. They were very happy, and they were like, "Yeah, okay, we're happy to give you a license." And from there, it took a few years. COVID happened, and then now I'm doing sort of more and more pro work, that sort of pro boxing board license shows through that as well. So it was a bit of a rite of passage, I suppose, for me to get that next step.
You talk about Michael Buffer then. What's he like behind the scenes? Is he...
He's great, actually. Yeah. He is great. He's a really nice guy, actually. He comes across... He's always very professional whenever I've been with him. We met in the hotel before we went over to the Liverpool Echo Arena. We were in Liverpool for the masterclass. It was the night of, I think it was Imran Khan's return to the ring that night. So it was a good big show. Michael was there. We just sat for 20 minutes. There's a difference between the on-stage person and obviously the other person. But he was always very professional. He was happy to sign a signature for someone as well. I remember, who was in the foyer of the hotel. So it was just, and he was just really nice. And he's actually commented on a post recently on my Twitter as well, sort of saying, so it's good to, he sort of keeps in contact in little ways.
Sorry, you go, Bob.
I was just going to say, in terms of, like, obviously you talked about that day with trying to get your license, was it a daunting experience that you had to sat in it and you just had to read out in front of them, or were you confident you could go in there and do it? I
think I was confident, but there was still there's still some anticipation and look at that word.
We know the word.
Because you're still in front of it. It's like a job interview. It's like that sort of thing. And also because I had been told to arrive at a certain time, they kept me waiting, and I was like, okay. I didn't quite expect them to be the last thing on the thing, but understandably now, when you know boxing and you understand what's going on, what actually the reasons why things are these they call council meetings, there are more important things than licensing MCs. Didn't mind waiting, but it did add to that anticipation of me going into the ring and doing that.
To be fair, there's a lot of jobs in boxing I think I wouldn't mind doing, but being an MC isn't one of them.
It just seems like your nightmare doing the MC.
It would not suit me at all, being up in front of everyone and having to remember that stuff. And
you just have to remember it, just write it down. But it's I think it comes with a bit of flair, and you feel comfortable and confident to do it. I've certainly developed over the years, developed my own pattern, way of doing with it and dealing with it. I'm not saying I won't get nervous. I still get nervous, particularly if there's, particularly when actually it's a big crowd, or there's people in the crowd I know. Don't like doing local shows. Because there's always one or two people you're standing there. You catch their eye, or they catch your eye, and you think, dang, haven't seen that person for a while. I hope I do it good. Did a show recently, actually, at York Hall, and Eddie Hearn was sat in the front row, and I'm like going, I've now got to MC again for Eddie Hearn. So there's always something like that, or something. It always comes from it.
And to sort of jump back to the start, there's not that many MCs in the game. In the big thing, it's not something loads of kids grow up to want to be. Is that something you always wanted to do? Is it something that was always in the plan or developed over time? What was it that ultimately led to the decision of you going down that route?
Okay, it was a bit of an accident. I used to work for a company who does mobile phones in Merthyr, and I was messing around one day with doing impersonations and accents and different things, and I won't do them now because nowadays that's probably not PC. So, but yeah, I was messing around, and my boss said, "Well, what about doing it like a ring announcer?" And I went, "Oh, okay, go on then." Like Michael Buffer, I went, "Oh yeah, I know him. I've seen him on WCW, and wrestling and things like that. And I've seen him on boxing. Yeah, I can do something similar." So I did it, and he said, "Oh, stay there, right? Don't go anywhere." I thought, "God, I'm getting fired." So he ran off. He came back with a guy called Russ Burt, and Russ Burt was at the time working with a small wrestling company in Cardiff, and he was like, "I'm the referee and the ring announcer, but would you, showed him what I could do." And the boss, boss was sort of saying, "Do it for him, perform Monkey Boy." And so I did it, and he loved it. So it was just like an opportunity then came from that to go on to working in a small hall in Cardiff. But I say small, it was a sports hall. It was S4C cameras were there filming for a documentary about one of the wrestlers, and they were filming me. It was my first time in the ring, and this was the level, sort of thing. So that sort of happened. I enjoyed it. So they said, "Oh, would you come back and do the next one?" So I did the next one to the next one. Then I got a call from someone who runs shows all across Wales. He's like, "I like what you do. Would you come be my MC?" Yep, no worries at all. And then I met a few other people, grew the network. As you grow your network, obviously you're introduced to more and more people. Started putting stuff on socials as you do, and that was 15 years ago. There was social media, and Facebook was still a big thing in those days. People started seeing I could do things, and then I got invited to by another MC to cover a show for his up in Stoke with Ross Poynton. And maybe your listeners will remember Ross Poynton. He was the guy that Michael Bisbin fought in the Tough Enough House all those years ago, which then launched his career. So Ross gave me an opportunity to launch my career as well and be his MC in Vicky Hall in Stoke-on-Trent, massive venue, 700,000 people in that whatever that room held. That was my first MMA experience, and then gradually it sort of grew into. I started getting involved in the amateurs and other things then as well. So yeah.
And do you have a favourite event? I mean, obviously we're a boxing podcast here, but I'm not going to hold you to say boxing if that's not your favourite. Do you have a favourite if that's wrestling or if it's MMA, boxing, all sorts?
I think I grew up watching a lot of wrestling, as I think a lot of kids do. But then you sort of you do transition. I was lucky at my age. There was a TV program, a TV series program channel called Bravo, which featured UFC. So I could watch Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, Randy Couture. You could watch these guys coming along and in the comfort of your own house. So I sort of started getting into more MMA side of it. But then as I grew my knowledge and grew more about sport and stuff, I would say actually boxing is probably, and I'm going to probably get pulled over by some MMA fans for this one, but I think it's a little bit more complicated to stick to a single discipline than to focus on multiple disciplines. And obviously that's up for, and they can say that. I think that's for me when I watch then, but I take my hat off to anyone who wants to step inside the ring or cage and go toe to toe with someone else and have a fight, because the preparation, the work that they've got to put in, the mental capacity they've got to put in to get themselves into that ring and into that cage, I take my hat off to them. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, I like it all. But yeah, so professional boxing certainly is, certainly one of my more passionate sports at the moment. Yeah.
I also think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the MC, the ring announcer, is a really big part of boxing. I think when I searched up on YouTube before this, I was just searching up for just famous, ring announcements, and there is so many. Obviously, the likes of Michael Buffer and David Diamante, and does that play into it at some point, or maybe am I wrong that boxing has the role of an MC is such a strong one within boxing?
I think I understandably I like to think that I'm not the main attraction. I'm not the main attraction. People don't buy tickets to come and see me. I'm not like a comedian or a singer. I can entertain by all means, but people have paid their good hard-earned cash to come and see the boxers and the fighters in this capacity. So my role in that is to sort of make sure that they have the best possible introduction possible. And that, for me, means that every time I step in the cage or the ring, I deliver the best possible thing. And I think how that is over the years has been perceived, then there's been great people like, as you mentioned, David Diamante, Michael Buffer. We've talked about Michael. Bruce Buffer is in the UFC, and there's a couple of others that I look up to as well in the industry as well. Actually, like Paul Booth, for example, who does Channel 5 for Hennessy. There's a few others that I look up to as well, and think actually, but I think at the same time, I don't want to copy them. I'm happy to become my own name and my own voice, and that's what I've tried to do over the years. I don't quite know how that fits, but I think the announcement side of it builds the drama. You've waited so long for that fight. We've waited so long for these big fights. It's now time. You hear that bell and the voice, Jimmy Leonard Jr. come up, for example, or you get drawn into the attention. Your focus is there. You're not focused on anything else going on around you. The focus is on the stage and the two boxers going at it. So I hope that.
How did you come up with your catchphrase then? Because you were telling us beforehand what it was. Is it like, because in darts, obviously I'm a big darts fan, and I watch the 180 count. Everyone, before they come in, they have to say, this is my 180 call. It all has to be different. Obviously in boxing, does that all have to be different, or is there something that comes with
I think it's just, again, you want something to call yourself your own.
Mm-hmm.
And be different, but at the same time be similar.
Yeah.
Again, the role is, as I say, you want to give the best thing. You want to be what you can be in that capacity. How did I come up with it? I kind of just don't know. I think I just freestyled it a couple of times. I've tried it. I suddenly realised that obviously the big ones are trademarked and you can't use those things, so you don't get in trouble. I don't want to be sued by Michael Buffer and the juggernauts as they are. But I think you just you see what reaction you get from the crowd and certain things. I mean, I know Michael certainly to try that with his. He said he had a "let's get your engine started" or something that he talks about when he talks about it as well. Mine, I think I just tried a couple of different things, and it fitted and it worked with that crowd. Tried it somewhere else and it didn't get quite as good responses, so I fine-tuned it a little bit, changed it a little bit, and you come up with it. I won't tell you what it is because I don't think it's. Should I do it now?
It's up to you.
In case it's not trademarked.
Yeah, well, there are discussions around that at the moment, but yeah.
And I think when it comes to Michael Buffer, I know we've said his name a lot, but he is the sort of face of the game in that sense. I think a really interesting story, I don't know if you heard it, when he had some health complications, and the first thing he did when he was fine was make sure he could still say his catchphrase.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd be the same? Would you, if you, I'm not, God forbid, I'm not wishing upon you at all, but if you'd gone, would you try and hit that just one last time to see if you've still got it?
Yeah, definitely. it's that, you'd have to start off with that, and maybe the ladies and gentlemen distinguished guests, that's my opening that I do. No one else does that, so if I can get it in the voice, then I'll be okay. I'll be happy.
And are you backstage, hitting vocal warm-ups and stuff, giving it to yourself in the mirror and stuff, or do you back yourself that when you go you can go? Is that something that's changed across your career?
Depending on the venue, and if I've had time to do a warm, if the PA guys have turned up early enough and set up, some venues I know I can kind of walk out and just go with it, because I know the levels will all be done and the warm up will sort of already been done because I've done that sort of sound check with them, so I don't need to warm up in that capacity. But some venues I've had to, because it's too big or the sound system's not quite good enough, or if that's the case. But I don't have a routine of doing it regularly. I probably should. Probably damaging my vocal cords, from what my singer teacher used to tell me. You don't do your scales, John, you're never going to get there. But again, I kind of and I use a Lozenger as well, Vocal Zone. They sponsored me, so hence you get their name dropped as well. So, but they're good little things. Stick them in the side of your cheeks, and it just keeps your your throat nice and lubricated up throughout the whole of the show. The longer show as well, the more you get through. That's all.
I need one of those. When I'm over at the football, honestly, the next day or like that evening, I think it was a couple months ago, we had a podcast after I'd been at Leeds, and the whole time it was just like there was dry back here. I was struggling with everything. So do they literally just boom, throat sorted?
Put them just up in your gums and just let them sit there throughout the show.
I'm gonna have to get some of them.
Free advertisement,
honestly. Yeah, absolutely.
You talk about venues then.
Yeah.
What's your favourite venue you've emceed in? You don't have to name one. You can name numerous ones as well.
I don't think there's one that I've got that is my ultimate favourite.
Yeah.
There's certain ones that I tick off in sort of the list of things that you want to do. Cardiff was St David's Hall. I'm announced there, which was a big one for me when I went there as a boy. I was in the school choir and we did all that sort of stuff. So I was like, that's the hometown venue. That's probably the biggest one. I'd like to say I've done CIA, but I haven't. Or whatever it's called, Utilia now.
The Utilita.
Utilita, sorry. I haven't done that room. I have done a side room on the side of it, and I did that for Billy Gunn.
That counts. That counts.
I would count it.
Billy Gunn against the level of the thing. Favorite. I don't have a favorite one, but I like doing the bigger venues. I like doing stadiums. They are good. I like doing my Nottingham Motorpoint Arena. Like York Hall.
Yeah.
At certain times of the year.
I was about to
cold.
At a certain time of the year.
Is this the cold issue with York Hall?
Warm,
it's either extremes, isn't it? It's either absolutely Baltic in there, or it is absolutely sweatbox.
That's what all the fighters say.
Yeah, you can't. It's such an iconic venue that you can't not want to do the venue, but at the same time, I sometimes just can not. If it's the summer shows, no. There's a few other ones that I'd like to get down. Wembley, O2, a couple of other big ones that I've done. I've done a few O2 academies around the UK and stuff. But to be honest with you, I'm quite happy in a workman's hall as well. I think you've got to kind of remember where you start, and I love being around the amateurs side of it as well, because you can see the future stars and you can see who's going through, and you get to see that level as well. So announcing them early, trying to give them the best introduction possible, so that even if they don't carry on with boxing, they've had a great moment where they've been in the ring, where they've been young as well. So
yeah, the small hall boxing stuff is really important. It's something that we're quite passionate about. We've gone to a lot of the what you'd call small hall shows and stuff, and there's some unbelievably talented boxers at those levels, and all the boxers that people watch now and love were there once upon a time. Is there anyone that you've maybe announced for or something, and then you've watched them get to the top? Or I mean, obviously you mentioned Gavin Gwynn earlier when you got your license, and that's someone who's really triumphed.
I don't think I've ever announced Gavin, actually. Strangely enough, randomly enough, being a Merthyr boy and being an Ebbw boy, he's Merthyr, I'm Ebbw Vale. We're on the same road, fundamentally on the same, but we're on different tracks. But yeah, I think I've announced some great. I've announced some people that have gone on to do other, to turn pro and stuff like that. Gemma Rueg, Mace Rueg, Nathan Mizzen. They've gone through that sort of ranks and gone on to getting their pro license and following that dream. Mace is doing fantastically well and watching his career with anticipation. Same with Nathan. I think they're both going to go on and do great things. Jake Tinklin, another couple of. I think Omar. I think as well. It's just Rashid Omar. I think I've announced him as well. I'd like to say I've done the Lee Selby and the Andrew Selby, but I've done Andrew Selby in a different capacity, but not in the amateur section. So yeah, but there are some guys now that I'm looking at. There's Byron Haywood's boy, who's doing quite well in our division, and he's doing well. He would go up before going on to other things as well, and it's just trying to sort of remember their names. I'm useless with names. That's my partner. I turn up at venues, I'm shaking hands with people, and I'm like, I can't remember your name, sorry. But because you say that many, I think sometimes you just sort of mentally discard them a lot. So, and sometimes you throw the wrong names out at the wrong time. But yeah, I like to think that when they go back and they use their footage, or they look back and they go, I've done what I can do for them, and then perhaps one day that'll get featured on a documentary for them. These are the early fights, and there's my voice saying that would be cool, I think.
Talk about names then. Obviously, fighters have nicknames. Have you got a favourite one? Because I think, Sam, you've got down Oscar De La Hoya's one.
No. So this is a recent one.
Okay.
This is in case you didn't have an answer. So I'll let you give your answer, and then if you don't, then I can say mine. So it wasn't just an endless question.
So who's your favourite?
Do I have a favourite
nickname? A lot of the journeymen that come down have decent ones, don't they?
Yeah, the Brown Eagle.
Okay.
Brown Eagle. That's kind of cool. I don't think I've got a favourite one. There are ones that I like saying a little bit more, and I kind of, because you can kind of lean on them. But there's also ones that I move around. So like normally you'd find the nickname in the middle, and sometimes you're just like, no, it doesn't fit there. Like the Outlaw. Yeah, this has gone now for me. I should have looked this up before I came in. But the Outlaw, and that he used to have it in the middle, and I've gone, no, I want to put it at the beginning. So it's the Outlaw at the beginning, and then Vincent. It'll come to me the rest of the name. But yeah, he's a great little prospect as well coming through. And it's just, am I allowed? I've sort of said to one or two, can I give you nicknames? Can I slide one in there? And they're like, oh well, if you think so, there's a show that I did recently, and they were actually just the coach was giving the nicknames, and that was quite fun because they had no idea that they were getting called that when they came to the kit. There was a cage actually down in Falmouth for XFC, which again they were just coming to the cage. They had no idea of what they were actually being called. They just knew they were going out. Don't know if they could hear it because the adrenaline probably was kicking and the music was that loud. So
no, that is good. I'll give you mine. While I do, Ben, do you reckon you could reach into my bag and get the 3 sheets of paper with our things on there, which we're going to do a little bit later? My one is a guy called Oscar McCracken. I don't know if you've seen this. It was recently on Twitter. He's the first professional boxer who is also a solicitor, and his nickname is Oscar De La Lawyer. That is brilliant, right? That is so clever.
I like that. That's good.
I think they're loose paper. I'll go grab them real quick. I'll let you guys move on to a question.
I was just going to say, in terms of, it's probably one of the best parts of the job, being involved in these sort of events and getting to travel to all these different venues and stuff like that.
Yes, traveling being on the road is one of the things it just comes with the job. People look at me crazy, and I'm like going, but I can't do this in my home.
Yeah.
Sorry, not my glasses and that. So it comes part of the job, and you just get used to it. That's Friday. Friday I did a show in Blackpool, stayed over in Blackpool, then drove down to another show in Wolverhampton. So there's a lot on the road. It does take a lot out of you. Sometimes you're hoteling it, but that comes with the job. And although sometimes that works for me, sometimes it doesn't work for me always. I've got kids, so being away from them hurts. I've got a partner, being away from her hurts as well. But sometimes, being the job and doing what I like, and I love to do this job, you kind of have to make those sacrifices sometimes. And I'm very lucky that I've got people around me that support me and can help me with the journey as well.
Yeah. And I suppose with like you said, the fight nights or whatever event you're doing, it can be like quite a long night where like we've been to some boxing shows and it'll be quite quiet at the start of the night, not as many people in there, and by the time it builds up to the main event, the room is full. But I suppose with you've got to be out there from as soon as you start to the end of the night. How difficult is it to sort of keep that momentum going?
It takes a lot out of you. I've got a Fitbit on, and you can just see the steps going up and down, pacing around the ring and all that. I like to be at shows early. I like to look around the room, like I mentioned earlier. I like to feel where rooms are before boxers and the punters arrive. But you want to maintain that level of energy, and it can be difficult when shows are dragging and things aren't quite right. One of the great things about being on the pro shows is normally there's a whip. Some of the other shows do have them as well, but they're continuously keeping the fights coming to the ring or the cage, and then you're able to keep delivering because you're buzzing off what a great knockout that last fight was, or a great stoppage, or a great submission, or whatever it was, and you're like, great, okay, I'm the crowd is, and you respond to that, and then, like you say, you start off slow a little bit anyway, because you don't want to over exert yourself from the very first time. However, I try and give as best introduction as possible every time I step into the ring to deliver that for them. So it can take a bit of energy, and your energy levels throughout the whole night if you're not topped up with water and vocal zones and whatever else, and a counter sandwich or whatever to keep you going. It's really good when promoters provide you with food halfway through. However, you're wearing your white shirt, you hope to God you don't drop it down the front of you. So
Right. Is there anything that can sort of make the job difficult, I suppose, or have you ever had any instances where people have just sort of got in your way with what you're trying to do, or do they sort of just leave you to one side and just get on with it?
Depending on the show, and depending on the promotion and the promoters, there are certain times where you feel like you actually have to take more of a role of events manager in some respect to sort of try and keep the things going, knowing how long things roughly take. When they sort of turn around to you and say, we've got 12 fights, we're going to be done by 10:30, and you sit there going, no, 4 fights an hour. That's the sort of limit that you sort of get. You sort of 3 fights an hour when it's pro stuff, because it's a bit longer, or MMA takes a bit longer as well. So you're talking 3 to 4 fights an hour, or 4 to 5 fights an hour if it's some different things. And you're sitting there going, no, this is going to be 12 o'clock finish. And that, having that mentality sometimes when you know what you're talking about, can actually sometimes slow you down a little bit and dishearten you a little bit. So you're like, okay, you've got 12 fights, great, that's great. And then you actually look at your watch, you didn't start at 7 o'clock. I don't think any show ever starts at that on time. But
none of the shows we've been to, no.
You always wait a little bit longer, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's when it's a long delay, like an hour and a half, that sort of thing. And then the gaps between fighters arriving and coming into the cage or the ring, that also just adds 5. You're only a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there, but as they say, look after pennies and the pounds take care of themselves. Same thing, take care of the minutes, and the hours will take care of themselves. And that's about the only thing that, as me, kind of gets me a little bit tired and sort of lethargic around the show, because then you're like, I want to go. You can't keep jumping on onto the next stage. So, but yeah, it's trying to overcome that that's being the professional side of it. Is sort of like, okay, well, I understand that now, and I can balance that out. What I sometimes struggle with a little bit, and I'll say this openly, is that I sometimes do struggle a little bit when they sort of say it's 5 minutes and 5 minutes turns into 15, and you're like, okay, you said 5 minutes, we're ready. I'm ready to go. Everyone else is ready to go. Why aren't we going?
What's the longest night then? You talk about starting late. Have you ever finished at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning?
I think the longest show I've done that's taken me over into the early morning was a show called for FCC, and Full Contact Contender up in Bolton. Again, I think this was just a case of minutes between fights. It was stat card anyway. I think we had 24 on that show.
24.
But we started like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Wow. Or 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
And what rounds are these now? This was
MMA.
Oh, okay.
So it's MMA. So 3-minute rounds for the amateurs. Some of the pros down at the end of the card with 3 5s. Yeah. And of course, if they go the distance, that's you quickly work that out in your head. That's 9 minutes each gap. So that's 2 minutes between. That's 11 minutes. Time you get them in, time you get them out. You're talking 15 to 20 minutes with a camera if they do interviews or anything else like that. That just adds the time. And if they're not ready to come in straight away, then that's what takes the time. And I think we finished about I want to say about 1:45, 1:30, 1:45 in the morning. So it wasn't late, but that was probably the latest that I've done into a show.
Yeah, that'd be a pain in the ass, and unfortunately we don't have too much time because of some technical difficulties. But what we wanted you to do, if it's all right, is run through we've made up some nicknames for ourselves, we've made up some records for ourselves, things like that. You're welcome to embellish on this
just
as much as you want
as well. me and Ben don't know what's on there. So
yeah,
this is all on Sam.
And like I said,
stitch or
you're more than welcome to embellish on them as much as you would like,
Okay.
and take your own time with them. But there is
Okay.
the 3 sheets. I tried to do my neatest handwriting. I've been told my handwriting's like a very neat 5-year-old. Like I've just learned to like
Very
write,
neat 5-year-old.
but it should at least be readable. I'm hoping. So in your own time, hit us with them.
No.
Clear the throat before we go. Can I put them opposite each other, or have I got to do them?
You can do them however you like.
However I want,
We're handing the
however I
show
want.
over to you for the time being.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, introducing now, boxing out of the blue corner. He enters the ring today with a record of 34 defeats and 1 draw. He wears the blue and white shorts. From and fighting out of Merthyr, please welcome the Merthyr meathead, Ben Thomas!
That is amazing.
unbelievable.
That'd get me ready for my first win, that would.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
After 34 knockouts.
No knockouts. It went
No
the distance.
knockouts,
Every
yeah.
single one went the
Everyone
distance.
else.
Clear went the
Good
distance.
journey, man.
Probably shouldn't put these two together in the same ring, but we're going to do that. I think
Okay.
We're going to do the same. And his opponent, standing across the ring and boxing out of the red corner. He wears the amber and black shorts, and tonight makes his professional boxing debut. From Cumbran, fighting out of Newport, the Hazard, Harry Tovey!
Oh, look at that.
Beautiful.
I'm ready.
Unbelievable.
I am ready.
I'm
Wow.
I feel after this next one, I feel like I'm going to be so pumped to walk home and edit a podcast. I'm going to be really in the mood for it. Hit us with it.
I'll try. And their opponent, this is a triple threat match, by the way, that's okay. And their opponent, he enters the ring tonight with a record of 1 victory, 1 draw, 1 defeat, wearing the blue, yellow, white shorts of Leeds, fighting out of Bristol. Please welcome Sam the Sniper Hill.
That
is unbelievable.
That was
Wow.
much better than I could ever have imagined.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Now we've lived the dream now because we've
I'm
had
ready.
we've
I'm
had
ready.
ourselves announced, but we don't have to put ourselves at risk of getting punched in the
Well, no,
face.
we-
This
we
is
have
the
to get involved with Chris or something now, trying to get us actually in the ring.
get Chris
Have a word
Sanagar
with
to
Mr.
get us.
Sanagar, and I'm sure he can sort you out. That sort of, yeah.
He's a mad enough man to make it happen.
Well, there's 3 of us against each other.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Even if it's like 2:30 in the afternoon, no one has to be there as long as the ring's up.
We've all seen Misfits, and triple threat boxing is probably the next thing.
We could try and get
You're
one.
not wrong.
Then tag team boxing. Let's pitch them the idea.
Well, yeah. When
Yeah.
when the podcast blows up more and more, Misfits will be on the phone begging us for it. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything. It's been interesting to
Really
hear
good.
another side of boxing. You know, a side that I was going to say you don't get to hear the voice of too much. You do get to hear your voice a lot, but you don't get to hear behind the voice. So thank you for that. I'll give you now the opportunity to plug anything you'd like, your own socials, any sponsorships, anything like that.
My own sponsors. I don't really have any sponsors apart from Focal Zone, and they don't really sponsor me. I just buy stuff off them. They say I'm sponsored by them, but that's okay. No, if you want to search me up and follow me on social media, then at Voice the Vale on pretty much most of them, and that's VALE, like Ebbw Vale, as I'm a big person from Ebbw Vale, and a big supporter of Ebbw Vale Rugby Club. We talked about that too earlier as well, and so occasionally get to say I do a stadium announcer job sometimes as well for them. So it's good to keep my hands in different pots as well. But yeah, at Voice of the Vale on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. And if you want me to come and introduce you, just give me a bell.
Lovely. Thank you very much. We'll catch all the listeners in our next episode next week. Other than that, check out obviously Jonathan's socials and any other YouTube videos on the channel. Thank you all for listening.